Kids, children, niños, tiny people, small, tall, funny, annoying. Kids often live in the moment, appreciate the small things, they don't hold on to grudges, they're creative, not discriminating, and they're okay to make mistakes. Kinda makes you sick, doesn't it? There are so many amazing traits of being a kid, which inevitably gets beaten out of them as they make their way towards adulthood and inevitable depression. And there's a lot of children in video games. Some you save, some you play as, and some you run from. Playing as a child can be just the start of your journey, like in Fable, where your binary good and bad choices are started by kicking chickens and punching other kids. Some games you play as a kid throughout, like in Horned Boy, you play as Ico, and yes, that's what I'm calling it, as he tries to help Yorda escape a castle. The way you hold down the button for Ico to hold Yorda's hand as he guides her around the castle is a great way to establish their dynamic. Likewise, in Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, you get to experience a brotherly bond through the use of its control scheme. You control each brother with a separate control stick, and because of the way these controls and how the puzzles work through the dynamic, helps to create a unique bond between the two brothers and how reliant they are on each other for the journey. But all they did is focus on saving their father. In Job Island, it's down to a couple of kids to save the world from being destroyed by a giant comet. And how do they do that? Why, by engaging in child labour tasks, of course. I'm not even kidding. Their gramps gives them some uniforms to get jobs with, because that's how you get a job apparently. I'm not even sure about the grandpa giving this type of outfit to his grandkids though. So these kids get numerous child labour jobs, many of which are either dangerous to them or completely inappropriate for any kid to engage with. That includes being firefighters, because yeah, that's safe for a kid. A dentist, because yes, of course, a child is qualified to pull out teeth. They even work in a literal sweatshop, probably sewing clothes for Nike. Clearly the family don't care and disregard the safety of their kids, because they even undertake a job as a stunt driver, because what promotes safety like death-defying stunts? Being a daredevil is one way to freak out a kid, but there's a whole bunch of kids who have experienced terrifying or horrific things in video games, pretty much guaranteeing PTSD symptoms in the future. Take Sherry in Resident Evil 2. She's seen some pretty horrific things. In fact, if it's not bad enough that she's being held captive by a demented police chief, she's also got this guy as a father, who shows his paternal love by infecting her with the G virus. In Silent Hill, after a car accident, Harry wakens to see Cheryl has disappeared. Any parent will happily tell you kids are a nightmare for wandering off. It also happens in the reimagining in Shattered Memories too, where you can press A to shout Cheryl.
Cheryl! 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 Cheryl!
If that doesn't work, press X to
Jason!
In Heavy Rain, Jason wanders off, probably sulking because his father has recently beaten him in a sword fight. Unfortunately, Ethan faces something every parent fears, the death of their child. One of the saddest moments I've ever experienced in a video game is in The Last of Us, and they managed to achieve that in the first 15 minutes of the game. Now, I know it involves a child, but I still think that's impressive, seeing as some games can last tens of hours and you don't give two shits about them. It's also not just thrown in there to make you feel all wet and drippy in the face, because it's a poignant theme for what happens throughout the game, and is definitely an important factor for what happens at the end. Let's hand it to those unruly puppers. If it's not the fear of loss, then it's the traditional fear of threat, and a typical trope in horror games is kids. Maybe it's the idea of a kid not acting like a kid, creating a feeling of uneasiness. Kids can be impulsive and unreasonable, so you mix that in with a loss of innocence and give them seemingly unlimited supernatural powers, and those little shits can become quite unsettling. The 2005 video game F.E.A.R. is a fantastic game with some of the best AI, fun shooting mechanics, and introduces a child paranormal menace called Alma. F.E.A.R. will constantly toy with your surroundings. You'll see faces of dead people flash on your screen, and things such as this. Alma will stalk you throughout the game, so you never know when some boxes fall or the lights flicker if you're going to end up seeing this possessed little girl and what she might be capable of. Sometimes though, you're the one stalking kids, so one game that takes disturbing kids to the next level is this survival horror game, Rule of Rose. The The game was actually banned in the UK. There was a whole fear-mongering campaign at the time, based on nothing but misleading information, but enough to get the game banned. And probably explains why it cost £375 in CEX. In the game you encounter numerous kids that are either eerily cackling or beating a bag with some sticks. Kids, aren't they so creative? You'll spend your time either following kids about or doing tasks for them to prevent yourself from being killed. And a lot of kids in this game are very, very weird.
Did you hear the news?
You even find a dog like this. Who would do this to a dog? I don't care if they're the kids, I'm gonna mess them up. Which you can't, well, you sort of can. You can stab kids with a fork. But then again, they do look like this. The kids in the game have clearly gone through some traumatic things themselves, because what kids would throw someone into a grave? And if you think that's messed up, you also get scenes like this.
Amanda! There. Amanda! 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 Amanda!
Violence against kids is generally viewed as distasteful and unacceptable, and no game developer is likely to include it in a game, as it's likely to get the game banned. Whilst kids can be annoying because they often won't shut up, they lack patience, they have snot all over their face, and they generally won't leave you alone, well, unless they're wandering off.
Jason!
And it's not likely that any game developer is likely to give you the autonomy to attack children, because it's likely to get the game banned or something that will have to be taken out or changed in some way, especially in the UK and Europe. Usually if there's a game which does allow you to attack children, it's because there's some sort of hideous monster child. But that still comes with caveats. For example, in the UK, I never saw the grey children in Silent Hill, as it was removed and replaced with the Mumbler instead, representing small demons and menacing animals from fairy tales that are lesser read in childhood. It's okay if you're playing as kids, of course, because then the deaths can be as violent as you want. Games like Limbo, Inside or Little Nightmares, you'll see a whole host of savage deaths, from being eaten alive, drowned, torn to shreds by dogs, or decapitated. Limbo even has a bit where, after watching a child commit suicide and using their body as a makeshift float, to progress you need to drag a child's corpse so you can set off a trap. I guess that's okay because you're not the one directly causing harm to others. Unless it's Bioshock, where you do get the choice of whether to kill or save the little sisters. In fact, the killing is done as part of the whole morality and choice narrative. There are games where those sacred tiny people of the future can be directly injured though. In The Simpsons Hit and Run, you can actually ram your car into children, knocking them flying across the street. Homer will even sing about how evil he is.
I am evil Homer. I am evil Homer.
I guess they get away with it because they don't show any injury, and once you stop bashing into them, they can get up and walk it off. Well, when you're not continuously running into them along the road or going up to them and kicking them whilst they're on the ground. Rated teen in America and 7+ in the UK. The Simpsons can get away with anything. Okay, maybe not everything. Bully wasn't even called Bully in the UK because it was called Canis Canem Edit, or equally stupid, which is Latin for why didn't you just call it Bully? It was never stated why it was called something different, but there was a lot of controversy at the time and a lot of anti-bullying campaigners not very happy with the game. I mean, you can go around giving kids a wedgie, punching them and kicking them, including girls, but the point of this game is to rise against the bully rather than being one. Plus they ended up re-releasing it as Bully Scholarship Edition eventually, so it was all pointless really. Some kids don't get the luxury of the education, and in Metal Gear Solid 5 there's child soldiers. Of course you can't kill them. Okay, well you can.
Those are just kids. Don't hurt them.
It does result in an instant game over though. What you can do is considerably harm them in as many ways as you like. Because apparently it's absolutely fine to shoot them with a rocket fist to the face, judo throw them to the ground, or punch them square in the face and knock them out. As long as they don't die, what's a few injuries here and there? But you have to be careful though, because if you kill them you get the game over, so shooting a bunch of them with a tranquilizer dart, dragging them to the same place, planting some C4, and then waking them up just before blowing them all to shit, that's also a game over.
Boss, you killed a child. I'm aborting this mission.
One game you wouldn't expect to have any of the child violence though is Star Wars The Phantom Menace. As you progress through the game, you play as both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Liam Neeson. There's a bit in the game where a mother is separated from her son due to the conflict. She asks you to rescue him, so I go and try and save him. Unfortunately, during the escorting of the child, I have a bit of an accident, by which I mean I cut him to bits with my lightsaber. She's mortified and I feel bad, so I decide to do the whole thing again. This time I manage to rescue him and return him to his mother, and then I decide to kill them both. And if you think that's bad, then when you play as Qui-Gon Neeson later in Tatooine, you can literally plow your way through as many kids as you like. In fact, the kids will even shout murderer as you slice your lightsaber through them all. And people thought Anakin was bad. They've got nothing on what Qui-Gon did. Apparently it's okay to kill kids, but not Jar Jar. The game was rated for teens in the US, and hilariously, the game was rated for anyone 11 plus in the UK. Video games use the things we love about kids, the things we hate, and the things that can leave us uneasy. Adults are supposed to be role models for kids, helping them to make sense of the world and their place in it. Of course, kids can be annoying, and so that might mean at times we drive into them or cut them up with the lightsabers. Of course, there are many games I didn't talk about, but I'd like to know what some of your favourite games including kids are, or stuff with kids in that are a bit unusual. So leave them in the comments, give me a like, and try to be kind. Because remember, children are our future.
Kids don't.
Hey kids, I'm a computer. Stop all the downloading.
Better stand back, mister, cause I'm about to slash all my prices. You're no Jedi.
Oh no, God, no, please, Michelle. Oh, baby.